Good evening and welcome to Inside City Hall for Friday, October 10th, 2025. I'm Bobby Kuza. Democrats here in the city are rallying behind State Attorney General Letitia James after she was indicted on mortgage fraud charges. But not everyone is racing to her defense. Candidates in the race for mayor had some mixed reactions. Our Kelly Mena joins us now with more from the campaign trail in tonight's top story. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Bobby. And a day after the Attorney General was indicted, the candidates in the race for mayor started weighing in. Some came to her defense, some didn't, and some were just afraid to say her name.
This is not simply an attack on Attorney General Tish James. This is an attack on our city.
Democrats are standing united in the face of the indictment of one of their own. A group of federal, state, and local officials used terms like weaponization and attack to denounce the charges brought against Attorney General Letitia James.
We stand firmly with Attorney General James. We have her back, and we will not be silent as she is attacked for doing her job.
This is a blatant miscarriage of justice. This is a shameless act of political retribution.
Zora Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the race for mayor, took to defending James, but not all candidates felt the same. Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa.
Maybe this should be a signal that all of these cross indictments and lawfare situations, depending on what side of the political parameter you are, need to come to an end.
Meanwhile, ex-governor and independent candidate Andrew Cuomo was not as clear. In his initial statement on Thursday night, Cuomo failed to mention James or President Trump by name. Allies of James seized on the omission.
Andrew Cuomo, if you are too afraid to speak her name, let me give you a helping hand. Her name is Tish James.
The Attorney General and former governor have a complicated history. It was James's office who substantiated multiple claims of sexual harassment against Cuomo that led to his resignation. Later on Friday, Cuomo said in part, "I know firsthand as the White House weaponized the DOJ against me when I was governor of New York and 3 other Democratic states during the height of COVID. And it's wrong that it appears to be happening with AG James and former FBI Director Comey. It is part of why people have lost faith in the justice system, the cornerstone of our democracy." Meanwhile, Mayor Adams seemed to be staying out of the fray in the wake of his own high-profile legal history.
I'm going to do the same thing to her, what I ask of everyone. When I was going through my situation, let the process play out. Don't start asking me about what do I think about what's going on now. I want to know what did y'all think about when my life was destroyed in this city.
And the Attorney General is expected in court later this month in that case, Bobby.
So, Kelly, it seemed like things got a little contentious today between the mayor and reporters. I mean, I guess the obvious difference here is that he felt like he was politically persecuted by the Biden administration, whereas Letitia James is being politically persecuted by the Trump administration. So he doesn't feel like maybe they belong in the same category.
And unlike the Attorney General, he doesn't have anybody running to his defense. Remember, everybody immediately called for his resignation. Lots of people resigned in scandal amid that, but not the mayor. He decided to stand strong and defiant, and really was that person that was trumpeting this idea that they were coming after him. They were weaponizing the Justice Department against the second black sitting mayor in the city. And I was asking him about that, especially because Letitia James is a high-profile black politician, not just here in New York, but across the country, and what his thoughts were. Was this some form of a weaponization, whether it's coming from Trump or somebody else? And he refused to answer that because he still, it seems, is emotional or maybe sensitive about nobody standing up for his right to a fair trial.
All right, Kelly Mena, thank you so much for that report. And Trump's Justice Department says the indictment of James is proof that no one is above the law. But James supporters say she's a victim of a malicious, politically motivated persecution, an argument her attorney is expected to make in seeking a dismissal of the charges. One legal expert says it's possible the case may not even make it to trial. Our Rena Diamante in Washington takes a closer look.
For some Republicans, Thursday's indictment accusing New York Attorney General Letitia James of mortgage fraud is a vindication.
Just a diabolical public servant, one who's willing to stop at nothing to selectively prosecute, to attack the president.
But now there are questions whether James is a victim of the same prosecutorial abuses that Representative Claudia Tenney, other Republicans, and President Donald Trump himself have accused James of committing.
She's a horribly corrupt attorney general.
President Trump has long made clear he is no fan of James. Last month, he took his criticism further.
It looks to me like she's very guilty of something.
In 2022, James's office won a civil judgment against Donald Trump for fraudulently inflating the value of his assets. He's made no secret of his desire for payback against James and other adversaries. The extent of that desire was clear with the social media post last month that was reportedly meant to be a private message to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done, he wrote. Days later, a Trump-picked U.S. attorney in Virginia secured an indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, also a Trump adversary. The same prosecutor then obtained the indictment against James. Critics say the indictments represent a misuse of the Justice Department to go after the president's foes.
Presidents don't normally do this, and to me, I think it's foolish. He's hurting his own case by making these demands.
Career prosecutors in Virginia reportedly recommended against indicting either James or Comey, citing flimsy evidence. A question now is whether the indictments could be dismissed on the grounds that they represent a selective or vindictive prosecution. A former federal prosecutor says James and Comey would have to prove their indictments are part of an agenda and had nothing to do with evidence. What is the likelihood that this case could be tossed out because of selective prosecution?
I think there's at least a 50-50 chance here, perhaps as high as 75% based on some of these outside of the process statements that are being made.
The president's social media could provide grounds for such a dismissal.
Certainly that post is going to be an exhibit, if not the first and most primary exhibit.
There could be even more indictments of the president's adversaries. Investigations of Senator Adam Schiff, a California Democrat, and John Bolton, the president's former national security advisor, are ongoing. James, Comey, Schiff, and Bolton have all denied wrongdoing. In Washington, Rena Diamante, New York 1.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, political anchor Errol Lewis and Curtis Sliwa walked around Brownsville, Brooklyn earlier this week, where Sliwa has a campaign office. We will bring you their conversation after the break. Stay with us.
How are you, my brother?
Very good. Pleasure. Have a vote for Sliwa. No Cuomo, no Mandami. Sliwa.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Earlier this week, political anchor Errol Lewis joined Republican candidate for mayor Curtis Sliwa at his new campaign office in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Sliwa also showed Errol the house he lived in with his first wife and talked about why the neighborhood means so much to him and how he plans to improve it if elected. Here's part one of their conversation.
This is where your first wife used to live.
Yes. With her family, and I knew her brother Alfred Drayton, because we had met. I got kicked out of Brooklyn Prep, Jesuit High School, which is now Medgar Evers. They sent me to Canarsie High School saying, well, you got to get your Regents credits, because I had a half scholarship to Brown University, because I was doing recycling before it was even, in vogue, environmental studies they had. So I was introduced to the Angela Davis, George Jackson brothers Solidarity Club after school by the history teacher, because Alfred Drayton went there, and his sister was there. And she had this gorgeous afro. Looked like Angela Davis. I was in love with Angela Davis at that time.
Everybody was, right.
So on the porch, I would come respectfully, talk to her. She was from St. Croix, Virgin Islands, her family. And then eventually we got married at a Baptist church. And then we moved in across the street, second floor. We then moved to Far Rockaway because her child was being cared for by her grandmother from her first relationship she had. And we moved into Ocean Village, which is where Cheryl Willis moved in.
Yeah. Okay.
Almost the same time.
Okay. Interesting. So living across the street from the in-laws, that must have been a challenge, I would assume.
No, the only challenge was when they would force me to eat the callaloo.
You didn't like the callaloo?
Oh, my God. I was living in the porcelain palace after that.
Okay.
So the spinach, they'd have pig's knuckles in there. They'd have other delights. But callaloo did not agree with me.
So this is the late 70s, mid-70s.
This is 74 to 76.
74 to 76.
And just as then, when we would walk in the streets, we go down here, Hagerman to New Lots. We go up to Pitkin, go up Rockaway. I would call it back then the ER belt. The food, horrific. I call it the KKK. They had Tropical Fantasy Punch, remember?
Yeah.
No, the real KK, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Kennedy Chicken, Kansas Chicken. There was no decent food, and there's no decent food here now. So if you want to get healthy food, you almost can't find any.
I did not know you were interested in any kind of healthy food. I watched you chug those bottles of cola and all that crap that you used to eat.
I knew fried foods were not good for me.
Okay.
And I knew even then, because from the family, the blood pressure, the diabetes, which was, you could see, debilitating.
Sure.
And everything was fried.
Sure.
And if you looked for an alternative, which my wife always looked for, greens, you'd be hard-pressed to find any then or now.
So you're talking about a half century later.
Yes.
And even when you were there, this neighborhood was known as a tough place.
Condition, like it was Stone Avenue first, then it became Mother Gaston Boulevard.
Yeah.
18 public housing projects. I was in and out of all of them. They had Jolly Stompers and Tomahawks. Those were the two gangs. They all were out to get me. See, that started early before I even started the Guardian Angels.
So what do you take from your time here as a young man that you would bring to City Hall?
Well, first off, Republicans never come here. Never have. Rudy didn't in his heyday. Bloomberg didn't. They just avoid it, assuming that everybody is a Democrat or they don't vote. There's a lot of people just don't vote. And because I've lived here and I've dealt with people from Brownsville and East New York and Canarsie, I call it the trifecta, the Trinity, because I've lived all three places, I can never forget that the same problems are still plaguing them. Now, Up there used to be the burned out tenements. When the Bronx was on fire, burning, this part of Brooklyn was burning.
Yeah.
And they built the Nehemiah homes, much better improvement. People had, personal space. Those co-ops opposite our headquarters, my uncle, Jimmy Scalvone, was a butcher. The union funds went into establishing co-ops. You look at that building, how many years later?
Yeah,
good
solid,
shape.
Solid, yeah.
Well maintained.
Yeah.
It's what I said should be in the projects. People should have ownership of their apartments. Ownership will lead to them getting more involved. Even if they're poor and indigent, I don't care if it's $5, $10. I mean, about 30% have to pay rent based on, how much they're making. They have to pay 30%. But the point is, ownership changes everything. Co-ops, condos. You look at all that. The chairman of HUD at that time, Jack Kemp, in Reagan time, Republican. Great idea, ownership. And guess who shot it down? Not the Democrats, the Republicans.
Right.
Because their attitude is, well, maybe these people can't handle it. What are you talking about they can't handle it? You know they have tenant councils. They used to have tenant patrols in the toughest projects.
Yeah,
You'd have to come in and sign in, and it'd be mostly grandmas downstairs. You'd have to sign in, and if you didn't have business there, if you didn't know somebody there, they turn you away. There's a grandmother standing up to the Jolly Stompers and the Tomahawks. And believe it or not, those guys would stay away. So I saw all that firsthand. I know what works. I know what doesn't work, obviously. The school systems, a lot of children here who need alternative schools, vocational training. By fourth grade, a lot of these kids cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. And I remember in Gildersleeve Junior High School, where I went to in Canarsie, you had a guidance counselor. By 8th grade, that guidance counselor would sit you down. Curtis, do you ever think of culinary, art, metal shop, wood shop? You ever think, there are a lot of good schools like Westinghouse, downtown Brooklyn, here are all the skills. What they were politely telling you, and in your best interest, is maybe academically, you weren't going to get your Regents credits. Because back then we had 3 graduation certificates. You had, obviously, Regents, vocational. You had a lot more vocational training. And you had the degree, you got the graduation certificate, generally called it, which meant you inhaled and exhaled. And through social promotion, you got through, which benefited nobody.
Right.
We are going to take a break. Coming up, we'll show you part 2 of Errol's conversation with Republican candidate for mayor, Curtis Sliwa. Stay with us. We're back in a minute.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's only a game. It's only a little rivalry. It's only a ritual. When I come home late, and a few generations. You're always there. And only Spectrum TV includes all your favorite streaming apps with live TV at no extra cost. It's only a game. It's only everything.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As you saw before the break, our political anchor Errol Lewis got a chance to walk around the neighborhood of Brownsville, Brooklyn with Republican candidate for mayor Curtis Sliwa. Here is part 2 of their conversation where Sliwa talks more about the need for access to healthy food, why he doesn't view himself as a conservative, and his love-hate relationship with President Donald Trump.
Okay. Now see, perfect example.
Yeah.
Supermarket, right?
Yeah.
Look at the selection compared to other neighborhoods.
Right.
Trader Joe's, call it Trader Jose's for probably Hispanic will own it. They're very, Dominicans especially. Poor selection.
No produce, right.
No encouragement to have a better selection.
Yeah. Well, the current mayor was supposed to do something about that, right?
Yep.
Based on his own personal experience.
And I complimented him
and
for
he
that.
did some of it, right, with the school lunches and so forth, yeah. What would you do more? How would you get better food here?
Well,
yet another
first of
chicken
all,
stuff.
the merchants are going to say to you, are you crazy? This is what people want. If I offer this and this, then you have to subsidize. Now, you don't go the whole way of Zohar Mandami.
Yeah.
City supermarkets, because I would say to Zoran, which I'll say in that debate, Zoran, maybe you can show us a way to stop shoplifting, because they're going to come in and shoplift you, too, in those city supermarkets. That's the quickest way to go out of business. You don't have to worry about getting
shrinkage,
customers.
they call it, yes.
Right, but I would have people go, okay, what is it going to take for you to offer some variety without it killing your customer base? And then it's a slow progression.
So you're a Republican, you've been here, they've seen you, but no particular relationship to the head of the party, Donald Trump.
Right.
Does that help? Does that hurt? What does that do for you?
I think it hurts with some, helps with others. I think I've always been a populist, going way back. People don't identify. They'll know, oh, okay, you're a Republican. But normally it's Curtis, the guardian angel.
Do you know Trump? You must have crossed paths with him at some point.
We've had a love-hate relationship for over 30 years. In fact, the funniest thing, we were both given the New York State Conservative Party Award of the Year in about 1986.
Okay.
So we're at the 69th Street Armory, summer. Cindy Adams was the mistress of ceremonies.
Okay.
It wasn't Michael Long, it was the chairman before him.
Right.
So I look at Donald, he's in tux, I'm in the red. I said, Donald, I'm not a conservative. What are we gonna do? Because I know you're not a conservative. He goes, just enjoy it. Don't offend them. Accept the awards. And there's no air conditioning here, so let's keep it brief. He wasn't a conservative. I've never been a conservative.
Interesting.
I've never had the Conservative Party line. I haven't sought it. They're nice people. Rudy never had it. Bloomberg never had it. So this perception that all Republicans have to be conservatives is a misnomer. I'm a populist.
Well, yeah, Rudy didn't. I mean, he worked out that whole thing with Ray Harding through the Liberal Party.
Right, but remember the DSA guy. This is what people forget. He's David Dinkins.
Yeah.
DSA is not new. I have to inform him. I used to say to Rudy, you're telling us Dinkins is the limousine liberal. Well, you're on the Liberal Party line. And then he would say, yeah, but Dinkins is a socialist. Well, what are you talking about? He was a proud member of the DSA. He was. So this is not new. This guy is Zohar Mandami. He campaigned against Melinda Katz for Tiffany Caban for DI. I remember seeing him. He was the organizer. He was great at organizing. Remember, the night of the election, Melinda Katz lost on the ballot. 3,000 absentee ballots, and she only won by a few handfuls.
Right.
But how were they able to beat, at least on election night, a moderate, Jewish, Democrat who had been assemblywoman, councilwoman, land use chairman, borough president. The Democrats didn't wake up. They lost the AOC. Crowley didn't run. Now they're, oh, sorry. No. They've been steadily organizing. He was a great organizer in the streets. I watched myself. I warned them. I said, these guys are everywhere. Oh, I got Southeast Queens Meeks. That's what was said. Our Jewish voters didn't show up. I said, well, what happened?
What do you see happening this time?
Well, they got a lot of foot soldiers out there. We have our get out to vote effort. We come across them. We're in some of the same neighborhoods like Park Slope, Brooklyn Heights, Carroll Gardens, Long Island City, Astoria, that AOC 2 years ago, the People's Republic of Astoria, because every elected official was DSA. And the low person on the poll was Zoran Mandamiak.
Yeah.
Not even his neighbors knew who he was. So him whipping, I mean, beat badly Cuomo. Ran no campaign. He has no skills with the public. You can't, and he's running the same campaign again, except now he's the ultimate flip-flop man. Today we were at Crane's. Now he comes in after me. Yeah, we're going to keep Rikers Island open. We're going to retrofit it. I said, wait, the guy wanted to close it a decade ago. What are you talking about? You had no way to house the inmates then.
What do you think's going on with him? We did notice that. That was a big change.
He's going after my vote.
Okay.
He's made that very clear. Independent, conservative, Republicans. But you're not true to who you are. They think people are stupid. I've been in these conversations with Republicans and Democrats. This is what they say. They won't remember what you said 5 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago. I said, you really think people are stupid, huh? I don't. I trust the people. I don't trust you guys. Because you show me at any moment you'll flip-flop. And they don't even hesitate.
It is time now for a break. When we come back, we will have the final part of Errol's conversation with Republican candidate for mayor Curtis Sliwa. Stay with us. We are back in a minute.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Perkins.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As you saw before the break, our political anchor Errol Lewis got a chance to walk around Brownsville, Brooklyn with Republican candidate for mayor Curtis Sliwa. The two then sat down for a wide-ranging conversation about Sliwa's possible path to victory and what he hopes to accomplish during his first 100 days in office if elected. Here is the final part of their conversation.
Less than 30 days until the election. Somebody's going to get sworn in 58 days after that, so it's really right upon us, less than 90 days. If you're elected, what do you do in your first 100 days? What's on the agenda?
First 100 days, first day, you go out to the precincts. You shake the hands of every police officer you can, man and women, serving. Not just normal shift, but swing shift, graveyard shift. And I got to try to return their qualified immunity. See, it's a difficult term for people to understand. But our city council stripped them of the insurance that protects all the other civil servants. So, got to do negotiation with the city council. But what I will say in each precinct, if you don't have qualified immunity, which they don't, protection from personal lawsuits, I give up my qualified immunity. Jumani, are you going to give up your qualified immunity? And go right on down the line. Why should they be separate and succinct? And then the corrections officers have to deal with them. They have the hardest job in the city. They're on a 12-hour 911 call on a ship. Most are women of color, getting sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, and then the inmates get put back right in the tier. Where's the Me Too movement for them? They have nobody representing their needs. Those are two people I would immediately address that I would be responsible for. And then we would be dealing with issue by issue by issue in the first 100 days. You know, everybody promises day one, I'm going to sign an executive order. Remember de Blasio? I'm going to get rid of the horse-drawn carriages. He lied because he knew he couldn't do that. It had to be done by city council. But notice how consistent I've been. I've always been opposed to it with my wife, 2021. Now, who's on board? Zorhan, Eric Adams, Cuomo, welcome on board. I'm ahead of the curve in many instances, but I'm always consistent.
Okay, so there's a couple of issues there. Housing, affordability, what everybody keeps talking about. What's the early agenda for that? What do you do to help people who are in a crunch right now, facing eviction right now, can't find an apartment right now?
Use Brownsville as a perfect example. There's been a housing crisis ever since I lived here from 74 to 76. Across the street at co-ops that I was introduced to as a young boy, 1960, by my uncle, whose unions invested all their pension funds. We go across there today, except for the barbed wire and the scaffolding, which is like everywhere in the city. It's the same. These are tenants. They have their council, their co-op council. They do maintenance. They have a great place to live. If you were to say that to people, Brown say, oh, you're kidding. Public housing, there's 18 units I've been in and out of over the years. People should have the right of ownership. Jack Kemp said that as U.S. Secretary of HUD under Reagan. Great football player, congressman. My own Republicans turned down that idea. What? People who are poor and indigent, people of color are not capable of ownership? We know that's true. They are capable of ownership because look at all the people who own homes here. One of which I lived in for 2 years when I was first married.
Let's talk about income. We looked at some of the numbers. Median household income in this area in Brownsville, this is 2023 numbers, $43,000, which is about 45% less than the citywide median. Yeah. Very low. 32% living in poverty. Do you see it as your role, if you're the mayor, to help reverse those trends? And if so, how do you do that?
Well, especially the other area that I spent a lot of time in, the South Bronx, which has similar conditions. That's why I started the Guardian Angels. It hasn't gotten any better. And we've had a series of Democrats, and we had Republicans. They never really addressed this issue. Now, I'm not omnipotent. I don't declare to have all the answers. I know we're jumping right into a fiscal crisis that may be the same as it was in the late 70s when I formed the Guardian Angels, and Ed Koch, who had just been elected, had to answer to our financial control board put together by Governor Carey. You had Rohatyn, the banker, Gottbaum, the union leader. They invested their monies to keep us afloat. The state has got to balance its budget. DiNapoli says, hey, $36 billion gap. Trump keeps cutting. And Eric Adams had a budget for his reelection that was overblown. So I got to do the spreadsheets first. Because, you know, everybody likes to make promises. Zorhan, oh, my God, he's promising everything under the sun. He's had to step back and say, well, if I don't get to $10 billion from the 1%ers, the richest, I may have to try to get it from somewhere else. Hey, Zorhan, there's nowhere else to get it. You know, so the point is, I'm at least being honest. Let's see where the money is. Let's see what we can do. But I am not going to forsake the people of Brownsville, East New York, and the South Bronx who gave me the credibility of being leader of the Guardian Angels of a group that started in urban areas.
Well, you recently said that you don't fear socialists. There are a number of people who do, who are afraid of what is happening. Something about the Mamdani candidacy, the DSA in general, has them very concerned. Why do you think so much of the campaign has gone into that? Why has that been such an important thing?
If I were to take 1,000 people and line them up in any neighborhood in New York City, you think they know the difference between a communist and a socialist? Now, I'm a Cold War baby, so that was drilled into us. You know, Nikita Khrushchev, we will bury you. We had to go under the desk every day and fear the dropping of, nuclear weapon. Nowadays, I have to chide. So many people are getting hysterical. We've had socialists who've served in the city council. We have communists who've served in the city council. We had a congressman from East Harlem who was a socialist. In fact, Fiorello LaGuardia, that we look to as a paragon of, voiding political corruption, was a Republican who was a liberal who was part of the American Labor Party, which was socialist. So I'm not afraid of them. I'll campaign against them. I disagree with a lot of what they stand for, but Zoran Mamdani is what he says he is, a democratic socialist of America. And guess what? So was David Dinkins. He was the most famous of the Democratic Socialists of America. And that year when Rudy defeated him, Rudy was running on the Liberal Party line. And I was involved in both the campaigns, the one he lost to Dinkins, fair and square, and the one he won against Dinkins, fair and square.
Yeah, no, that's right. You used to be the head of the Reform Party. You've been sort of switching labels.
Well, I tell you, remember, Rudy would have somebody warm up the crowd at first. And then you had Jackie Mason, and he said some untawdry things about David Dinkins.
I remember.
So they had to give him eggs and left. And so they said, Curtis, can you introduce Rudy at the rallies? That's how I sort of became almost an apprentice of observing him in a political race that was very close, in which, we always say it was whites voting in Staten Island in incredible numbers for the secession issue that Guy Molinari, who was a mayor maker, created. No. You look at the analytics, Southeast Queens did not turn out for Dinkins like they did the first time. Remember, it was a 60% turnout in the first election, 57% turnout in the second election of registered voters. And a lot of the middle-class African-American house owners of Southeast Queens, they didn't vote for Rudy. They just didn't vote.
They didn't vote, yeah. Okay, interesting. When we're through with the debates and all of this is done, what's your game plan as far as your street action to try and turn out a winning percentage of votes for yourself?
Well, you can't just go into areas that you're going to get applause. They like applause. They're friends. They like to be with friends who reinforce you're going to win, you're going to win. And there are neighborhoods I could do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
No. You got to go into all the Zoranista areas. You got to go into Astoria, Long Island City. You got to go into the Wick, Bushwick. You got to go into the Slope, Park Slope, Brooklyn Heights, Carroll Gardens, Sunset Park. All the areas he did well in. Ridgewood along Fresh Pond Road, which has changed significantly. And these are mostly millennials and Gen Zers. Most of them have not decided to support Zoran. They're generally not involved at their age. So I have to approach them with my supporters and say, there is an alternative. And the alternative, Curtis Sliwa. I'm the populist Republican. A lot of them will say, Republican, I said, well, you got a chance to vote for me on an independent line, Save Animals, in which no-kill shelters put animal abusers in jail. A lot of women like that, especially. Like my wife designed this because she's dedicated her life to rescuing. Men don't understand it. But a lot of the millennials and Gen Zers, they are far more animal-friendly in that regard than sometimes their parents or grandparents.
Okay, so you have way more money than you had last time.
Yeah.
Way more visibility.
Yeah.
In some ways, a smaller field, right? I mean, it's you, Mamdani, and Cuomo. So you've gotten a sustained amount of attention. How do you feel about your chances between now and November?
Very good, because I'm the only one. I've been dubbed the mass transit mayor by the Staten Island Advance. Because I'm the only one on mass transit.
Yeah.
Now think of it. I'm in the subways. I'm on the normal buses. I'm on the express buses. Close to 6 million people at different levels each day go. Some ride 2, 4, or sometime 1. Why wouldn't you want to be down there? You know the old classic politician would stand at the entrance of a subway and give their palm cards.
That's right.
They won't even do that now because they will catch hell. What are you going to do about the homeless down there? You're emotionally disturbed. The system's falling apart. What about the fare evaders? They're going under the turnstile over, and then I, being the idiot, have to pay my fare. You notice they don't even do that. They don't want to be anywhere near mass transit. So I think that exposes me to a lot of potential voters who haven't yet made up their mind, and they get to cross-examine me. It's a great focus group. When the doors close, friends, foes, and a lot of people, they'll line up. Come on, Sliwa. That was a political answer. I'm going to ask you again. Everybody's listening. It's like, I'm sweating. I'm schwitzing here. It's like, wow, this is a really good question. I got to think about this one.
All right. We'll see you down in the subways.
Oh, that's what I love, the subways, the veins and arteries of the city.
All right, it is time for a break. Straight ahead, we will talk more about the race for mayor when I'm joined by 2 top journalists in our Friday Reporters Roundtable. Stay with us. We're back in a minute.
The next downtown local 6 train to Brooklyn Bridge City Hall will arrive in 2 minutes.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
I'm not a con man. I'm not a phony.
We've seen Andrew Cuomo find $959 million to give to Elon Musk in tax breaks in Albany. The question is not the amount of money. The question is who it's to the benefit for.
We're now having a real conversation, and it's not just on TikTok. Hey, hey.
We will have to have armed security 24/7, 365. Everybody needs to take the rhetoric down.
Rikers has been deteriorating without repair. You're going to allow it to deteriorate for another 6, 7, 8 years?
Because you're so afraid of Zohran Mandami. By the way, when are you endorsing him?
By the way,
do you endorse him for mayor?
First of all, are
you going to endorse him for mayor?
Listen, you're a complete and total embarrassment.
We will fight these baseless charges aggressively.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was a look back at some of the week's top political stories, including the indictment of State Attorney General Letitia James. And joining me now to discuss all of this and the rest of the week's top headlines are two top journalists in our Friday Reporters Roundtable. Josie Stratman covers City Hall for the New York Daily News. And joining us for the first time is Nick Garber, who covers city and state politics for Crain's New York Business. Thank you both for being here tonight. So let's start with the bombshell news from last night. Tish James being charged with mortgage fraud. I just wanted to get your takes on this. I mean, there's a lot to say about it as Donald Trump brings his retribution campaign to New York. I mean, the fraud, if you look at the actual indictment, her ill-gotten gains allegedly were like $19,000 over 30 years, right? So, I mean, I don't want to weigh in on the seriousness of the charges here, but I don't know what kind of case this is. And Nick, just talk about what the impact is on Tish James.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any real effort to conceal the fact that the motive here is political. You know, the Trump people are not really making any effort to conceal that. I mean, it's going to distract her. You know, she's the sitting attorney general, and she now has to defend herself against a criminal case. It's a huge distraction, and maybe it's a sign of what the president will attempt against, you know, a potential Mayor Mamdani, where even if he can't, you know, throw him in prison, he can create a whole lot of distractions over 4 years.
Right, and Mamdani actually talked about that today. He said he spoke to Tish James last night, who said, "Don't worry about me," and he's kind of adopting that mindset too, saying he'll go ahead as mayor, try to, you know, enact his agenda and deal with whatever threats come from Trump. He said if he's up for the fight, essentially, if Trump wants to threaten him, then like Mamdani's saying that's because he's kind of doing right and doing right for New York City.
And that was at the rally, right, where we saw a lot of lawmakers rally around Tish James. We didn't see Cuomo, though, really rally around Tish James. They obviously have a complicated relationship, given that Tish James essentially helped bring down his governorship a few years ago. Right, there was some controversy about Cuomo's response.
Right, yeah, they're as close to sworn enemies in politics as you can get. In his responses, Cuomo has very much played two sides here. He said that weaponizing this country's justice system is as bad as it is on the left as it is on the right. Which is pretty notable, given that this is widely seen as a blatant political move to try to take Tish down after she went after Trump, obviously in her civil fraud case against his business empire here in New York.
So, Nick, you were co-moderator of this forum this week with all the mayoral candidates, Crain's New York Business. Talk about Cuomo first, because he sort of made some news that day with his sort of shift, I guess we could call it, in his policy stance on Rikers.
Yeah, he announced that he thinks that the jail should not be closed after all, which is, you know, the law says it has to be closed, and there are multi-billion-dollar contracts already awarded to build these smaller borough-based jails, so it's ambitious, to say the least, to make this kind of proposal. It was a little odd, you know, he made this proposal at the start of his remarks, and then he didn't even bring it up once we sat down to do our Q&A with him. It felt a little like it was, you know, something that was launched in response to some recent news and, you know, as a bit of a campaign tactic, as opposed to something, I mean, it'll be incredibly difficult to implement if he even is elected.
Do you think this was political? Because it's not, I mean, it's not really a position we've seen from a lot of Democrats or anyone on the left to say, well, we'll keep Rikers open, just rebuild it on site. I mean, that has tended to be something we've heard from maybe moderates or Republicans.
Right, yeah, and actually Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate for mayor, actually said about this. He said this flip-flop is just a kind of pandering to try to get conservative votes. But that's kind of what Cuomo's doing right now. He's at a double-digit loss right now, polls are showing. He's trying to make up that space, and one constituency he can tap into, however small it might be in New York City, is more conservative or moderate Democrats, Republicans, and this is a stance that many of those people support. Of course, like Nick said, there's many issues, like fiscal issues, logistical challenges, legal challenges. The city council would likely stand opposed to this, but yeah, right now we're seeing, and this also ties into what Cuomo's doing with his response to the Tish James suit. Excuse me.
All right, I want to talk more about those poll numbers, but we got to take a break. I will have much more with these reporters in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my reporters Roundtable, Josie Stratman of the New York Daily News, and Nick Garber of Crain's New York Business. So Nick, at the Crain's Forum the other day, not a lot of DSA members, I don't think, in the crowd. This is like sort of a business.
Close to zero.
Business-friendly audience. What did you think of Zohran Mamdani? I mean, does he sort of change tone a little bit when he's in front of that kind of audience?
Yes and no. I mean, I think he tries pretty hard to be consistent and not back down from his core policy commitments, but absolutely, I think it was a notable kind of shift in the way he emphasizes competence and hiring the best people, and lots of name dropping of Michael Bloomberg and people who served for him. And he even told us explicitly at one point, you know, when I make hiring decisions, it'll be irrespective of who these people worked for in the past. So he was trying pretty hard to appeal to these business leaders. And I checked in with a few people in the crowd afterwards, and generally they said they were impressed.
And Jessica Tish, right, the police commissioner, he had said this before, but he again reiterated that he was considering her for the job, which is notable.
Yeah, unprompted, he brought her up before we could even ask about it. And once again, he's not committing to keeping her on, but I think saying her name is kind of a magic word in some of these business circles, because she just embodies, I mean, she comes from a business family, and she embodies, I think, the kind of competence that people thought was lacking in aspects of the Adams administration, especially the NYPD.
Right. So let's talk about the poll that came out from Quinnipiac this week. I mean, Cuomo substantially narrowed the margins here, right? I mean, it went from a 22-point lead that Mamdani had in the last Quinnipiac poll now down to 13 points. So it seems like Adams drops out and Cuomo gets all of those votes, it seems, or most of them.
Right, yeah, that's a substantial jump. Mamdani still has a significant lead, but it's been narrowed. It seems like Cuomo's been able to scrape that Adams constituency into his own. But what's interesting, too, about the poll is it didn't actually ask voters if they would want to vote for Adams. Obviously, he's dropped out of the race, but he missed the deadline to take his name off the ballot. So his name will be on the ballot no matter what, as will former independent candidate Jim Walden's. So I'm not sure how reflective. Obviously, you always have to take polls with a grain of salt, but that's something to consider when looking at this one and any that follow.
Yeah, I mean, certainly good news for Cuomo. By the way, Curtis Sliwa, who was also at the Cranes Forum, of course, did not move the needle. I mean, compared to the last Quinnipiac poll, he had 15%, I believe 15% again in this one. So he does not seem to have benefited at all from Adams dropping out of the race. He did get endorsed by Rudy Giuliani this week. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that would just get Republicans who already like him to like him even more. Yeah, I mean, I think it seems like at this point, the only thing that could really change the contours of the race would be if Sliwa dropped out, and he's been so adamant that he only will if he dies. So it doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Showed up at, as you can see in the video, showed up without his beret at the event the other day to, show how serious he is about this race. Josie, let's talk about Mayor Adams in our last couple minutes. Went off to Albania this week, I think to the surprise of just about everybody. He announced the trip late Sunday night, right around the time he took off, right? What was behind this?
Well, we don't know still. There's a lot of speculation about the nature of the trip, given that he just about exactly a year ago was indicted on charges related to another foreign government, Turkey, and flight upgrades, and now he's in Albania, or was in Albania earlier this week, saying that he wants to create a direct flight between New York City and the capital of Albania. So that definitely raised quite a few eyebrows. The Albanian Prime Minister, Edi Rama, has also been the subject of some controversies, come up in some indictments in the U.S. So TBD. He says he was going to visit a friend and connect and build a relationship he hopes will continue after.
Visit a friend, I assume the friend was the Prime Minister, right?
Yes.
When I saw that quote, I wasn't totally clear. And by the way, there's also been speculation about a foreign ambassadorship. So, I mean, that was the first thing that crossed my mind, is he sort of scoping out a potential job.
Yeah, he's absolutely looking, or, maybe has secured a job post-mayor. So we'll see.
We'll find out soon enough. All right, Josie Stratman, Nick Garber, thank you both for joining us tonight. And that is going to do it for tonight's show. Stay tuned for another episode of our weekly national political show, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, at 9 o'clock. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great weekend. We will see you the next time on Inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Floor Spire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute, how are you still online? And I was like, Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for